Ask questions of any kinds, my friend. Any kind. Any kind of question that has been on your mind that you don't understand or you would wish to know more information about. Doesn't have to be art related. It can be other stuff. Maybe things that you feel personally about stuff. Topics like, oh, here's someone
Hey,
being
what do you,
brave. What's up?
what's your opinion? Because like,
I have no opinions.
nope. Well, there we go. Never mind.
I have a lot of opinions.
I see like on a lot of people's portfolios, they put like anime fan art. Is that like a trope in the industry that's like just like frowned upon completely?
Anime fan art?
Yeah, just like putting it as like professional stuff. Like, I get like people like there's nothing wrong with that, but like
I hear you.
putting it in, you know what I mean?
So, to say it as insensitive as I can would be that I think people just whine a lot. They complain,
Right.
right? And then to be a little bit more, formal with what I'm trying to one of my point is that I think it's a little bit more. A lot of it is rooted in jealousy, and people should just mind their own business. It's kind of how I feel about things, right?
Right.
It's probably the more, but I just it just gives me it. It doesn't enrage me entirely. I don't like have sleepless nights, but it is one of those biggest pet peeves of mine when people complain about whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So like, the way I think about it is that like there are some people that look down at anime fan art,
Right.
but these people tend to be themselves like jealous of, let's say, their style. They feel should be entitled to more praise
So they're like
because
elitist.
yeah, because their stuff is different or what have you. And these could be true, but different doesn't mean good, you know?
Yeah.
And people forget that. And that's what annoys me. Okay?
Right.
Like just because you're unique doesn't make you good. Like if I were to just draw, you know, a bunch of, you know, robots that look like pieces of turd, like literally like turds, and they all fought with lasagna as their main weapon, and they also eat, you know, they eat people's toenails. Yeah, I don't know if that is good. It's definitely unique,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Where anime, there's a reason why it's popular. It's good. Like I find it ironic that most people also like anime.
Yeah.
They tend to like the things in which they hate people doing stuff for. I think it's because it's it's easier, right? But just
Right.
because something is easier doesn't make it bad either. So, for
Yeah.
instance, um, people who do like overly sexualized characters for projects of, like there's very popular uh, Patreons or people who do Patreon that do this, who really exploit sexualizing, our favorite characters from our favorite TV shows and movies or what have you. And it's easier because porn, sex sells.
Right.
We're animals. We're impulsive beings. So it only makes sense that this would do really well, right?
Right.
Um, and so, like men in particular are more likely to engage in these types of activities, right? And
Right.
and there's 50% of the world's population are men, so there's a huge market. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like I get it. It's easier, you know. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it immoral. It doesn't make it shallow. Like for me, I think shallow is better reserved for or like these types of judgments should be reserved for individual behavior versus just generalizing. Does this make sense? So for
Yeah.
instance, if like let's say someone who did anime fan art and they also talk crap about everyone who doesn't do anime fan art,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'd be highly critical of what they would do. Then I would definitely bring up, and in a way, in the context, in the way in the conversation would go, would be not to defame like their actual process, but to talk to them in a way that they have to understand what they do themselves isn't incredibly challenging. Um, you know, regardless if they should do it or not, or they can do it or not, right? And
Right.
that they should stay in their lane. That's what I'm getting at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel the same way is true in the opposite direction is what I'm getting at. You know, because some people really perfect this kind of like mastery of, you know, overly sexualized stuff. And it may seem easy, but it might not be that easy, right?
Yeah.
On both on the technical level, but also on like on a moral level, because some people have moral attachments. I do not, but people do. And I remember one person in particular who was doing a lot of stuff like this. And by the way, it wasn't like they didn't like doing it, or I'm sorry, it wasn't like they did it just to make money, which, you know, some people are very critical of. Again, I don't care, you know, because making money, there's nothing wrong with that. It's
Yeah.
the context, like how they made money. If you're telling me who's worse, like someone who draws sexy anime girls, or someone who's makes money from um, selling, you know, child porn, it's very clear to me which is worse, right? Because one hurts a group of people, the other one doesn't, right? Doesn't hurt
Yeah.
anybody really, and and you can even make a case for things like the drug industry in America is worse. That market is worse than sexy anime girls, you know. So let's reserve our energy for criticism of institutions that actually deserve it. Is what I'm getting at. And
Right.
so like I said, like, you know, I had a uh, instance where I saw an instance of somebody who, like, they themselves weren't doing it for money, right, originally, but because, you know, they started getting more popular, they started building a fan base around this whole idea, this whole project, right? That they eventually, you know, got burnt out and realized like they don't like to be seen as this kind of artist. Not because they, you know, object entirely, right? But they actually do like to. They don't like to be under the stigma. They want to be respected as an
Yeah.
artist as well. Which again, I disagree with why that's true, right? Like people should be respected for what they do
Right.
and
Regardless.
and who they are versus the content of what they do, right?
Yeah.
But I understand, like, yeah, I get it. Like the stigma around it is pretty obvious. Okay, like I'm not naive. I get it. You know, I get what he means by that, or what he meant by that. And it's not gonna be like a quick fix overnight. That people should just stop treating people like jerk offs, you know, and just
Right.
leave people be. And anyway, so yeah, it was hard. It's hard to kind of just stick to that. Like people might think that it's easy, because there's like for instance, there's like porn stars who look at it as a job, right? And they have no moral quorums or anything, right? They just do it really well. They're very professional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They build studios, they build franchises. It's like a legit business. Um, you know, and they take full advantage of what they've built, right?
Right.
There's a very popular a porn star named Johnny Sins who does just that. right? He's very popular, and it's funny because I was just uh, like I actually knew who he was before, you know, and then
Yeah.
I was just like on YouTube stumbling across like fitness videos, and he had one, and I was like, what? And then it was weird to watch him in a different context, you know. It was like now I know him, you know, so I can't watch his videos or anything with him in there. It's weird. Everyone has to be anonymous, you know what I
Right.
mean? But like my point is that he like listening to him talk about like the industry was like very much like listening to any one of like people like in our industry. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought was incredibly fascinating. But that was like, of course, it's like a real business with real strategies and career advice. You know, like why
Yeah.
wouldn't it be? And it was really cool. It was really cool to listen to it. It was very informative. But then again, it was like I said, it's weird because I personally shouldn't want to know somebody. This is how I feel about it. But you get my point. Is
Yeah.
like I get like why people are stigma, and there are people that really do kind of are critical. I think the most pragmatic and practical advice I would give to people is know where you want to work. So if where you want to work has none of that nonsense in there, you know, then don't put that nonsense in there. Like if if you want to work in realistic games and you have a bunch of anime like half naked women, like it's probably not going to work out. And vice versa, like if you want to like work for like, you know, some big anime company, you know, but you have nothing but like realistic renderings that look like, you know, something that would fit like in a 343 universe or something like that for Halo, then yeah, get
Right.
that nonsense out of there. What are you doing? It's the same problem. You know, animes are incredibly popular. They're not going anywhere, you know? So it's just a matter of opinion now. Like, do you care or do you not care? You know? Like the
Yeah.
reason why I have like disgruntled feelings about it is about people complaining too much is because I know that like people wouldn't treat somebody who drew like Sesame Street characters with the same disdain, right?
Yeah.
Like if I drew like more fluffy, fun loving characters, people would say something like, "Oh yeah, you should like apply for Sesame Street or something like that." Where if I had like a bunch of sexy anime girls, they'd be like, "This just get this out of your portfolio." That's like the wrong advice.
Yeah.
Like
That's what.
you should ask the first question you should ask before you throw some advice like that is what industry do you want to work at or what do you like to do? You know?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, you were gonna say something?
Yeah. I just like noticed like amongst certain uh like channels that I watch, just because like I watch a shitload of content at this point, like just trying to get a bunch of different perspectives. That like it comes up every now and then where it's like someone in the comments, you know, said, "Why don't you do anime?" And I just hate that question. I'm just like, "What is the deal?" Like, I don't draw it, but like, I don't see what the problem is with it.
Yeah. No, people are too sensitive.
Yeah.
You take a break. Yeah, but that's how I feel about it. Personally, I don't care. I think people should do what they like to do. There's plenty of room for everybody to do what they like.
Right.
As long as there's not hurting anybody, I think it's pretty fair game. You know, like to give you some perspective. Um, you know, my oldest son, he was going through like a dry period. He still kind of is, and I told him like, you know, you just pick a thing, get good at it. You know,
Yeah.
and I told him like, you know, just to give you some context of like how much it doesn't matter what you do as long as you become good at it. Is that I told him like, yeah, you could literally be come home and tell us that you're a porn star, and I'd be like, that's cool. Like, but are you good at it? You know, like, are you doing
Yeah.
well? Like, are you building a career around it? And if you were to tell me, yes, I have a brand, you know, they're building like a dildo in the same size as my thing, and I'm like, all right, cool. That's a little too much detail, but I'm proud of you. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just be sure to tell me what it's called and what brand, so I can stay away.
So I can buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can buy it and hang it on my wall and be like, I'm so proud.
All the other crap.
That actually doesn't sound like a bad idea. I think I would do that because that would be really funny. Because usually it's like medals, but it's like, but I'm saying like I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me. You know,
How old?
21.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, like I'm saying, like in the context of this conversation, like I think like people just like, why does it make you mad, bro? Just say it's cool. Like you just don't want to do it. There is a more passive way of getting around saying you don't like doing it without insulting people that don't necessarily deserve to be insulted.
Right.
Like I said, like if people deserve to be insulted or there's a group of people, then it's harder for the group, but there has to be very clear, like obvious things to hate on. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, any other questions?
I had a question.
Yeah, go for it.
During your career, was there any point where you doubted being a character designer and you kind of ventured off into something else, or was it always character designing?
It was always character designing. Yeah, I will say this though. I understand your question. Like, I understand why you ask it. You know, but you're asking the wrong person. The reason why I said that is because I'm like uber confident all the time, even when I'm really trash. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to ask somebody that's like a little bit less, like a little YOLO. You know what I mean? Because they'll give you more pragmatic advice and more personal, like something that you can definitely relate to. But I am empathetic, meaning that I understand why you asked this, and I can give you some good advice as best I can right now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why is because you don't have foresight. You can't see into the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you compare your work compared to like some of the best in the industry, and it looks really daunting and overwhelming. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice is that that's very short-sighted, this mentality, that type of question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not keeping in count that you've already improved pretty rapidly within a span of a few years, right? Because if I were to ask you, are you better now than you were 5 years ago? The answer will most certainly be yes, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then what makes you think you can't get any better, like to the point where you can't work for like a good company in another 5 years? The answer is obviously, well, yeah, probably, right? Right. This career, at least as I see it currently, as at the current climate of our industry, this specific job career that you're in, okay, or looking to get into, a character concept artist, is completely within your grasp of doing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It really is. Now, whether you'll get it tomorrow, a year from now, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the question I can't give you the answer for. That's why I always tell people to work really hard and to make sure that they build a strong network of friends and community, right? To also go out of their way to show their work to as many people as possible. These types of things, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the kind of stuff that's going to give you those jobs, those opportunities. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you focus in on, I don't know why I designed this guy the way I did. I think I'm gonna change his design. I'll add some more details. Um, if you just keep on pushing your work and going to events and talking to people, you will increase your chances. And that's all you can do. And I know plenty of people who don't work, who've done this, you know, who've done really like push their work on the events. But it's still very clear to me that they haven't done it enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Very rarely do I run into an artist that I feel should be working, and isn't working. Okay? I think I can only think of one artist actually at the moment. And the reason why I think it's hard for them to get work is not because of, you know what, it's not because of the stuff that I just talked about a moment ago. It's because they live in like a country that's really unknown. Like I didn't even know. And they're very silent. Like they don't share their work nearly as much, and they can't leave their country often. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the main reasons this has happened to them. All right, so it's clear to me that is one of the main reasons why they're having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like not working because they're still like getting lots of follow-ups and freelance, but just not that like big studio job that they were hoping to get.
Right.
Sharing is scary, yo.
It is.
It is, but how else are people going to know? I share almost all of my work at all the times. Like very rarely do I not share stuff. If I painted something, I usually share it. And the only reason I wouldn't is if I just don't want to, but not because I'm afraid of any kind of pushback. Especially if I'm looking for some feedback, then I definitely share. Like I've been sharing like all my crappy games with people, you know, and they tell me it's crappy.
You haven't been sharing them with me.
Yeah, just go to robotpencil.itch.io, homie. It's there.
What? Send me the link.
You never gone to itch.io? Itch is great. You get free indie games.
That's where I've been going. It's not as easy to like art to like share like tons of. Like, I can make a few paintings every day if I wanted to, right? Can't do that with games. For now. I had a dream last night of like doing a game a day, but then I woke up.
I had a dream the other night that I got shot.
Yeah, well, at least that's a little more realistic.
I don't know why I felt the need to share that, but
there's like a thing where like depending on the kinds of dreams you have determines the kind of stress or anxieties you might be having in your mind. So you should look into that. It's not like horoscope stuff. It's like some real stuff. But I don't know where to start to look for that. It's most likely going to be horoscope stuff if I start looking. Let me see. I know there's like if you dream about spiders, it means a very specific thing. Dream about spiders, meaning.
They test that.
Dream moods. To see a spider in your dream indicates that you're feeling like an outsider in some situations. Spider is also symbolic of feminine power or an overbearing mother figure in your life. I don't have dreams about spiders, but I don't know if that's just from some random website. But there's some practicality to it on like a human level, because then we're able to, because our brain is constantly computing, and so when we're dreaming, it's like trying to fix and solve certain situations. Dreaming about getting shot. If you are a shooter but you are not able to see your target in a dream, it means that you are the one who controls the situation waking life. There's also another interpretation of dreams about being shot with a gun. These dreams can also mean that you are abused or persecuted by someone in your real life. Oh. Call the cops?
I don't know how true that is, but I'll have to pontificate upon it.
But like I said, I just Googled like and read the first thing. There's probably more nuanced and more practical situations. But like, yeah, it's like a real thing though. And like a lot of psychiatrists, from what I remember reading, and maybe what I read was wrong, but like from what I read a long time ago, because I had friends who had like crazy night terrors and they were telling me about it. and then like my daughter. So I was always just kind of curious. But like I said, your brain is playing out like events in your mind to help you cope with stress and anxiety. So like I know you just randomly said that, but like now, as your concerned friend, I would say, hey, look into it. See what's on your mind. See if you can sort it out.
Do you ever like play, not necessarily dream, but do you ever like play out scenarios in your head about like how things should go and like try and visualize them or whatever?
Yeah, all the time. I do that more nowadays than I did it before, because I have less time in front of devices and stuff, because I'm either like working or like taking in the kids and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just like it's harder for me to get in front of devices. That's why I've been really taking advantage of my iPad. But my point is that like that I do it absolutely, and the reason why is because you can still like plan ahead without actually like you can plan things without actually being engaged. You know what I mean? And so like especially with programming, like I can program in my head and then have a good idea of how to solve it later. That's really easy. Or I'm sorry, I wouldn't say easy. It's easier to do stuff like that. But then like something along the lines of like an art, like a painting, like I could still do that. It's just a little bit more complex. But the reason why it's easier to do for me, I would say nowadays, is because I am really reasonably good at painting now. So I can imagine how I would paint it, where I know some people don't even know how to paint consciously, while they're like actively attending their painting. So I get like how that's more problematic for others. But everything with practice is capable.
Do you have any like I guess practical study tips? Because I was mentioning like I was a little disappointed because I didn't use my time as effectively as I could have.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any like exercises to try and like I don't know, force yourself to do it or something?
Yeah, it's just getting started. Like it's really hard to stop once you get started. But what I would do to force myself, if I really had to avoid distractions, I'll remove my distractions. So like, let's say it's like a video game that you may play, or social media that you use a little too much. Lock yourself out of them, or uninstall these things. Like uninstall, delete, get rid of it entirely. So if you wanted to engage this, you would have to reinstall and wait for the download and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? Like hard line, prevent yourself from getting distracted, And this is why rehab works, but it doesn't work, because the way the rehab works is that it does exactly what I just said. It removes all the things that may have caused you the heartache and the reasons why you got addicted to whatever you may have got addicted to before, right? And once you are quote unquote cured after a few months, right? Most rehabs just send you back to the same place and environment in which made you the person you were before, right? And then people relapse all the time because they're surrounded in these same environments. So like you should absolutely remove your distraction. Like for instance, I used to play Overwatch a lot, and I uninstalled Battle.net and all that stuff. It was a good game, but I realized it was too much. I was spending too much time in it, and
I think I rage quit out of Overwatch like 15 times.
Yeah, I would say it's relative. Too much may seem like, I spend 7 or 8 hours playing. No, this is just like 2 or 3 hours a day or something like that, which is not a lot, but in the context of what I do when I try to accomplish in a day, it is a lot.
Hmm.
Like 2 or 3 hours of just free time is a lot of time to me, and I was just using it all up on Overwatch, because with that same time that I got back, I learned programming in a year and a half. You know what I mean? So it's clear that it was better to play recreationally, but not so religiously. I was playing like crazy religiously. My
Out of
friends, they all play. They play Rocket League, and they've been trying to get me into it.
That's a hard game, surprisingly.
Yeah, I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is I haven't started because I just don't really care to get good at it. If I were to play, it would be only just to communicate with other humans and hang out.
I think,
and I'd
ironically,
rather
like,
do something else is what I'm getting at. I'd rather do that through other means, like working out. Like I'm trying to find like workout crew, for instance.
okay,
Because
yeah.
that is a hobby in which if you spend time in it, yes, you can still get it like caught up, but it's like a skill that is still useful. Like if you're really good with health and fitness, that's something that everybody wants, right? So if you become really proficient and effective at it, then you can potentially turn that into a job.
Where do you go? Just out of curiosity, where do you go to work out? Are you near me?
24-hour fitness. I'm in Irvine.
Oh, you're in Irvine. Okay, yeah. I go to LA Fitness.
Yeah, my friends go to LA.
Right across from Riot.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna take one more question. Make the question matter.
In that same vein, jumping off of that a little bit, I was curious because I saw you posted about the new God of War recently, and
Oh yeah.
I feel like you have a unique perspective because you're a proficient artist and designer, but also a father. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate more any thoughts you had on that game, either from the point of view of how it affects you as a parent or as an artist.
Oh yeah. Anything that involves being a parent affects me differently than it used to. It's like when I saw Lion King when I was a kid, I liked it for the music and the colors, and the fun, like the Hakuna Matata, And then when I watched it as a father, the scene with Mufasa is incredibly powerful. All the scenes. You know what I mean? And it demonstrates to me the transcendence of like Disney and Pixar films or any other animation film that's trying to reach that level, like family films. They hit people on two lengths. They hit the kids and they hit the adults. Right? So God of War the game, like there's some parts of it that I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I like this a lot as a father, but I can see that it's really neutral too. Like it's not, you don't have to be a dad, for instance. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, it's a good game. I haven't beat it yet. I'm like slowly pacing through it, just because, like I just said earlier, I don't try to spend too much time playing. But it's I forgot who I was talking to, but I was talking about like playing single player games is like perfect for me because I don't have to like. There's no schedule. Like I don't have to like wait for my friend to get on or anything. I can just start playing whenever I can. It's clear that single player games are made for adults, like older peeps. Not always, but clearly like that audience is there. It's probably why EA said what they said. I was starting to understand because their audience is mostly much younger. Because they went off to say something like single player games are dead, and they were like incredibly wrong.
Oh man.
They just miscalculated the statistics. They weren't looking at a broader scope. They're probably just looking internally, And so yeah, they were objectively wrong. Like you just got to consider who your audience is, Yeah, but to their defense, God of War, just like started becoming profitable in the last few months, even though it was breaking records. or like I don't know, not months, maybe a few weeks. I forget the timeline. I'm not sure how old the game is, but it's just recently started getting profitable. It wasn't like immediately profitable as soon as the game launched, is what I'm getting at. But it did well enough that they were able to probably greenlight a sequel. That's what I'm getting at as well. But like I think EA, when they think about monetary value, which again to their defense, they're probably thinking of like, well, how do you maintain that profitability for years on end? You know? So that's why they look at microtransactions and make games like Madden or all those sports games every year,
Yeah.
Because people are going to come back. It's kind of like paying for a subscription for these games if you play them. You're coming at like a yearly subscription because you can count on them coming in next year. Anyway, cool beans. All right, guys. It was an honor. Wish you guys the best. Stay focused, stay practiced, keep your mind and head on straight. I'll see you guys around in the next lifetime. Hopefully at a workshop of some sort, I'm sure. I've been trying to keep it low this year because I'm just kind of tired of traveling. So maybe next year. We'll see.
And I'll see you
Next week.
Thursday?
That's right. You can see me on Thursday. You're right.
Okay.
And then officially Tuesday of next week will be last. Yeah, you're right.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyways, peace out, friends. Talk to you guys later.
Good night, Anthony.
Thank you.
Any questions? And then again, it could be about anything.
What would be your dream indie game to make?
Dream indie game to make?
Like, yeah,
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
It's a great question, actually. I never thought about, like, if I had unlimited resources, or what are their constraints here?
just like, I mean, because you said you want to build games, right? Like
Yes.
a one-man army. What's at the moment, what is it that you're like really excited to make?
Oh, okay, so that one's easier. I would say just platformer game, like a really good platformer game.
Just a platformer, no action?
Yeah, like well, the action would be the platforming.
Oh, I mean like attacking and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think I need that stuff. No, I don't really need that stuff. Just like a really clever platforming game. And if there was any action, it would be very at the level of like Mario Brothers,
Right.
really passive. It's not the main drive of the game. It's just about like clever platforming.
Is that your favorite genre? Or
No,
platform?
it's just like what I like to make.
Mm.
But if I were to talk about like so for instance, like the kinds of movies that I like to watch isn't the kind of art that I make.
That's fair.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or like the even games I like to play. I think it's closer. Like the games are a little bit closer. Like the kind of games I like to play, as well as the kind of art that I make, are pretty close, right? But when it comes to like game making, it's the same thing. It's like I like making platformers. Like that's fun for me, but if I could, I would make an action RPG game of or just games of that kind of caliber at the level of like Dark Souls,
Right.
because those are the kinds of games I really like. Or puzzle games too. I really love puzzle games, but I love playing puzzle games. I don't like making puzzle games. I tried to make a puzzle game once, and I was so bored out of my mind. The programming for it was actually not very complicated. It was the puzzle making that was complicated. I hated it. But that's not fair, to be honest, because I've only tried to make one puzzle game. So now that I think about it, I should give it another shot. I tried to make another one, and as I was working on it again, I just didn't like it. It's the puzzle making that I don't like. Like I don't like to be a puzzle creator.
Yeah.
at least as I can see it now, maybe that'll change if I try like a different. Maybe it's like this very specific genre puzzle games that I don't like, and I should just try something else. Like there's like an idea of a game that I have. It's more like a maze, and that's a lot of fun to make. Like I like making like puzzles that are a little bit more immediate.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure if I actually do like making puzzle games. But that would be like a dream. Like I would like for me to be in charge of if I had more than one person. If it wasn't just me, if I had some other people involved.
Do you think you'll ever get with a bunch of people?
I've been trying for years, man. Just people are so busy. You know, it's funny because I was even just thinking about like talking to you, so maybe we can collab.
Yeah, maybe. Let me know.
You got the animation skills and you have really good art skills, and that's the only part that's hard for me to do is because I don't. I have really good art skills, and I have no animation skills at that level, but I definitely have regular, reasonable animation skills. But what I realize is that it's just easier just to focus on animation or like only on programming or only on art for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
And I think that like a two-man team makes way more sense than a one-man team, right? Because you see a lot of examples of this. Like you have like people who made Castle Crushers, the same kind of idea. Like they made one game, but it was only two people. And you had the guy who did all the art and animation, and then you had the guy who did all the programming.
Yeah, there's a lot of those teams.
And I think that's the most practical. I just haven't found a person that's at that caliber, other than you.
I don't know if I'm at that caliber.
Yeah, I know. Like you have like the good enough art skills, and you can animate. So I don't know, man. Maybe we should talk after class. Maybe we can do something. Who knows? But it'd be much easier for both of us. I'm almost assured.
Yeah.
And the advantage is that if that was the thing that we were to do, the advantage would be that I know how to do art really well as well, you know. And so like artistic feedback would be pretty constructive all the time. And then you know how to program pretty well, so then you probably would be able to give me insight as well.
Oh, I don't know about.
Okay, well you have basic understanding of programming.
Yeah, basic.
Yeah. I have a friend who we've been actually talking about this. We've been trying to figure out. Like I have like a really good friend, my friend Kalen.
Oh yeah.
And I've been trying to get him to do environments for me.
Isn't he? He's working on his own game right now, right?
Yeah, but I think he's trying to like jump ship. He wants to like make his own IP. And I'm like, I know, dude. Just let me know. Like I've been doing it slowly on my own, but like I said, it's so hard. And I'm not in a hurry, so I'm not really mad about it. But it's just funny that everybody always wants to do it and nobody does it.
Yeah,
that's
kind of why I started. It's like nothing's really stopping you besides just learning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I exactly know what you mean. So maybe why don't we sync up and why don't we try to make something outside of the game that you're working on? Because that's yours. I don't want you to deviate from that. I think you should keep working on that.
Yeah, we should talk about it.
But I would love to. Maybe we can make like a really easy, simple game, and then see if we can make it look pretty dope in a short amount of time. Could be fun.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, because the only part is like I fucking can't. I can't do it all as effective. That's why I've been like learning 3D, because that's going to be the most lucrative way for me to improve. It's because 3D will give me a lot of shortcuts that 2D just can't afford me unless I just raw skill. I don't know how to do that. I don't got time for that. Maybe in the future, but just not now. I ain't got no time for that. But yeah, that would be probably like a puzzle game would be my dream. But like as of now, like a really solid platformer.
My long dream is to make an MMO. That's my bucket list.
Jesus. Yeah, you definitely need a team for that. There was a guy who tried to make an MMO by himself, and my friend's following him, and the guy like regrets it. Yeah, he was telling me like the guy's very proud of what he did. He got a lot of job opportunities from it, you know?
Yeah.
Like made an MMO by himself. It wasn't any good, but he did it by himself, which is impressive. But the guy said he like learned a lot, but he would never do it again. He said it was just took too much time and scopes are just so big. Yeah, I think I'm cool with MMOs too. I like MMOs. I don't mind working on any kind of game. My dream games, I like playing MMOs. But the problem that I have with developing an MMO is scale. That's
it's just a lot.
It's just too much, and I don't really know if that's even worth it. Like the investment, it would truly have to be a passion project.
Yeah,
you know, and because MMOs aren't as hot unless you like really build some of these like slot machine type games. Yeah, MMOs aren't doing too well. So it really would be just have to have a smaller scope, have to have a smaller team, and not ask for, not looking to make a large profit.
Yeah.
Like even EVE Online has just finally sold itself because, and not for a lot too. I was surprised it wasn't too much. I think in the scope of their project, there was a lot, but just not as much as like, Minecraft.
Yeah. Ever think of going into VR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know how to do stuff in VR. It's actually easy. A lot of tools are really easy. But I again, it's just like my interests are very clear. Like whenever I start playing a game, I love playing platformers universally. There's almost none that I don't like. If I had to make my perfect platformer game, it would probably be something like Mega Man, right? Which is an action platformer. But I love Mega Man in the sense that, oh, you know what? I have a really good pitch idea. I'll pitch it to you. Everyone witness to this. So that if you guys ever see this being made, then you know.
We know.
You guys know where it began. It's basically I forget the genre. It's called it's basically around bosses. It's like a boss Souls-like game. Like what is it? What is that called? Like boss mobbing, or I forget. There's like a whole genre. There's a few games that do this, but basically there's no minions. There's no leveling systems that are really in depth. It's just you fight bosses. So you know how in Mega Man, like you can select which boss to go to, right?
Yeah.
And then you can fight that boss. But first you have to traverse levels and fight minions, and then you fight the boss.
Right.
So this game would be entirely around just fighting a boss, right? Several bosses, and it would be basically the same Mega Man premise that if you kill a boss, you get certain special abilities. Some bosses' abilities will do better against others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the only real hurdle. That's the only really challenge. It'd be a really simple game, probably like 10 bosses, right? Shadow of Colossus is like this,
Have you heard of the game called Fury?
Yeah, Fury is like this.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other games that are like this. Cuphead was originally going to be like this, but then they got like all this fucking money, and they're like, all right, well, I guess we'll make fucking levels. I still think they shouldn't have. They should have just kept it to what they originally and just make it even better, right? But anyway, it's still a pretty good game. And just leave the platforming just to have fun, like traversing the world, but make the environment really enriched and the character and animations really amazing, and just make it look really good. So that's something. That's something to consider. I was originally going to make this 3D, but I've always imagined it being better 2D.
Yeah.
And then the fighting would be very close to like something like Smash Brothers, which would be really simple controls. And you just change your weapon, and the weapon will determine how your abilities are. Like in Smash Brothers, depending on who character you choose, depends on what abilities you have.
Yeah. I always like that more than kind of like the Street Fighter combos, like the directional combo moves. I like the simplicity of just like changing the weapon and then.
Yeah, and so now you fight differently instead of and all the buttons are the same. You would have like a down B, up B, side B, others like left B, right B, or actually it'd just be side B, I guess. And then you hold down B, and then just the regular attacks, but in the directions. And the longer you hold it, the more damage you do, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And then jumping, you can just jump around and block, right? So you would have your special attack button, and then you would have just a jumping around button,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is in my eyes something that I've thought about, and I think it would work really well as like a really gnarly 2D game. But I don't know. I'll let you know. And if then we can try to make it.
Yeah. Right.
Let's do it before October 13th. I'll go to Indiecade.
A little bit of a crunch.
Yeah. So get to work, dude. Make all 10 bosses right now. What's wrong with you? Anyway. Any other questions?
Hi, can we be Facebook friends?
Hell no. What's wrong with you?
What?
Yeah, of course.
Yay.
If I have room.
Oh, okay. I sent a request like on the first day of class, and I know like you didn't add me because it didn't work out.
Yeah. Diana. Is that it? Oral Pizza? No.
No. Nguyen.
And oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's the one, the first one. Yay.
Delete request.
No.
There you go. Friends.
Yes. Thank you.
There you go. Confirmation. Any other questions?
So do you always wear a hat?
Almost always, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even when I go swimming. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I've actually always worn hats, even when I was a kid. Just kind of like my son. My son like loves wearing hats too.
Oh, that's
And,
just your style. That's your
Yeah,
thing.
it's just how I like it. Yeah, and then as I was like losing my hair, I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll just wear hats more often. Yeah, there's not much style that you can go with like a bald head. Yeah, I think like early stages of like losing my hair, I remember being really upset about it, but then I realized that charm goes a long way, and so I just stopped worrying about it. But I never stopped wearing hats. I almost always wear hats. Yeah, if I am like really hot, I'll definitely take off my hat. And then swimming, obviously, always. And then what other circumstances? If we go to like a fancy place, like super fancy, I usually just will go without a hat. Like I'm wearing a suit or something. And because then like the suit's like really nice, makes me look nice. But like, it's just like aesthetically, it looks nice to have a hat. Like I have different colors every day. Yeah, but like I said, I've always worn a hat since I was a kid.
right.
beanies and hats. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, always. It's just my style. But as I was saying, I kind of lucked out that I look good with hats because it could have really messed with my ego, my insecurities, and even more if I didn't. But yeah, it's funny because my daughter always is like, why you always wear a hat? And I'm like, none of your business. And then I beat her. Just kidding. I don't always wear hats. All right, anyway. Any other questions?
I guess not.
What time is it? Oh yeah, we still got plenty of time, guys.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So when did you find yourself being in like the inner circle? So like I see like your interviews and stuff with like Shadi Safadi and or Safadi and Dan Levisi and stuff like that. And you guys are just like casually all sitting there as friends. When did you find yourself like being in that environment?
Probably it's gradual. Like you collect friends from one event to another. But whenever you start to get really good, that's when it starts to explode. It's an obvious and very kind of shallow tactic that most people employ, whether they're aware of it or not. Like when you start to have some merit to what you can do, and then more people want to talk to you. But when you're not that good, nobody talks to you, which is normal. Everybody's thirsty, make it into his business,
Yeah.
But my advice generally has always been just really be nice to people, just make friends naturally, and those who are good people are going to stick around, and those who aren't are not going to stick around. It's pretty simple. And like to give you a really good story, when I was first starting out, I went to Gnomon workshop. I met one of my idols, Paul Richards at the time. And I, was talking to him. He gave me some really good feedback about my designs. And, I took it to heart. About a year or 2 years later, about a year and a half or 2 years later, I'm now working at Sony. I've, started to build some skill in that time. 2 years is a long time to get good. And now I'm working for a pretty good company. And then I reached out to him because I saw that he was moving to Irvine to work at Blizzard. And I lived in Irvine. So I was like, hey, why don't we sync up and hang out? I just emailed him directly. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's hang out. And so he came to our sketch groups and hung out, and we would argue all the time about how Transformers is garbage. I thought it wasn't. He thought it was. And it was just fun conversations. And then one day I was just kind of like realizing that maybe he forgot who I was. Like he may have not known who I was. So I was like, hey, do you remember like the Gnomon workshop that you did a few years ago? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I went to it and I saw your talk. It was great. It was life-changing. He's like, oh, thanks, dude. And I was like, yeah. And I remember you gave me a review of my portfolio. And it was really helpful. Like you really changed my life. And he was like, what? He's like, no, I never saw your portfolio. I was like, yeah, you did. Like, it was really helpful. And he's like, no, I would have remembered you. Like, you're really hard to forget. I was like, nah, like, I don't, like, I'm not mad at you. Like, don't think that this is me trying to, like, catch you. Like, I was like a nobody amongst other nobodies. There's no way you should have remembered me, right?
Right.
I just think it's just, like, really cool, like, now that we're hanging out and stuff, and we're friends. And I just wanted to tell you, that's all. And he's like, no, dude, I promise, I would have remembered you. I don't think you remember right. I was like, no, like you even signed the book. Like I bought a book from you. You signed it. He said, like, good luck. He's like, no way. Well, you got to show me. And I was like, all right. So then I brought in the book the next day and I showed it to him. And he was just like, oh my God. It's like, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, I should have remembered. Like, I'm really bad with that. And I was like, no, man. Like, I was literally in the line with like 30 other dudes, you know? And we're all just like trying to talk to you. And I was just one out of like 30 people that you gave really good advice to. But what I wanted you to know is that you've been consistent. Like, you're just as nice as you were then as you are now. And I think that's really awesome. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to tell people, because sometimes you'll get in this business and some people treat you like dirt until you're good. Just remember that. Right? And those of you who are peers with one another might be really great friends and one day become awesome. Right? And might help each other out. You understand? So it's pretty smart tactics just to be a good person all the time to everybody, right? If you just don't get along with somebody, just avoid them. You don't have to be mean to them purposefully, you know? Like there's a good example that Dan had where he was trying to talk to like a really prestigious artist in our industry, like a big name. And the guy was just like, get out of here, man. Don't fanboy. He's like, I don't want you to fanboy. We're just all people, man. Like, you're wasting my time with all this fanboy stuff. And he's like, I just wanted to tell you, like, you know, I love your work and stuff. It's great. He's like, I don't need that nonsense. Get out of here. It's like, go bother someone else with that fanboy bullshit. And my friend was just like, or Dan, it was Dan Levisi. He's just like, all right, shit. And so he just left.
Right.
But then that guy realized it was Dan Levisi later on, like that year. He didn't realize it was. He was like, hey, man, like, sorry I blew you off of like that event, you know, but I'm working on this project and just wanted to get your eyes on it and see what you think. And then it's like, oh, yeah? You know?
That's great.
Yeah. So, and this person I'm talking about is actually pretty big person. He's always been nice to me, this very specific person, but he treated Dan like garbage.
Wow.
He treated another friend of mine like garbage too. So I think he's just not, overall, he's not a really good person.
Yeah, it's very selective.
Yeah, he's very selective. I don't know why he was nicer to me, but perhaps because he just knew of my work. But I don't think if it was any case outside of that, it wouldn't. But like, he was really nice to me, and he helped one of my students get a job. So
that's awesome.
So it's, my relationship with him was much different. But again, the circumstances were because I was already pretty popular, you know. So I'm thinking that's why. But unless he's averted, like inherently evil, then I don't really mind. Dan had a bad experience with them, and I just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't go out of my way like to hang out with this guy is what I'm getting at.
Right. Is there any type of like almost like marketing strategy? Like, when you get good, obviously maybe you do, but you probably don't just like post your stuff on Instagram or ArtStation or whatever, and then, you know, people find it. You could. And I guess the reason that I'm asking is not that I want popularity. I think the reason is that eventually, if I ever get good, I kind of want to do what you do and like share that with other people, because obviously I'm going through the struggle now, and I want other people to know that like you can do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just curious.
So you don't want to get popular, but yet you want people to know?
I think that it's not necessarily like the goal is not popularity. So people know like, oh yeah, you know, this guy, like he's super good. The goal is that, you know, people know of my work so that they trust, I guess, more than, I don't know. It's hard, I guess, to phrase.
You can't really have both.
Yeah.
And so just say you want to be more popular. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with being popular, right? Like, I think it's just like very hubris or arrogant to be like, look at me, look at all the people I have, like followers I have, right?
Yeah.
but again, there's nothing wrong with being arrogant. Do you understand? Like being arrogant inherently, there's nothing wrong with it. Like what's wrong with arrogance usually is when people talk down to other people, right? To like, or to potentially hide their insecurities, like arrogant without evidence of like real like proficiency. Does that make sense? Like if let me give you a couple of scenarios that people don't like. Like if I only have like 5,000 followers and you have like, let's say 100, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, I got way more followers than you do. Like you really got to do that hustle. Like people don't like that situation because one, that person doesn't have that many followers, and two, like what are they trying to do to tell me, you know? So people don't like that situation. But if someone said they had like 2 million followers and you only had the 100, and they said, man, I have way more followers than you. You should trust my insight on this. You take that way more seriously, and they're just as arrogant. But it's like the reality is, well, but they can be. They actually have the numbers to back up, and maybe people will then be really critical, like, well, did they buy those things? And because again, people don't like the fact that people are doing something well and brag about it, right? It's like sore winners, right? But the reality is there's nothing wrong with sore winners unless they hurt or indirectly try to hurt negatively other people. I think that's the part that people don't like. But just because someone's doing well isn't something to be afraid of, and something that you should be afraid of having yourself, right? Yeah. You know, there's the humble brag is what they usually call that, right? Because I know people who have tremendous followings and they're like, they don't like to talk about it and they're really weird about it. And I'm like, dude, you're fucking good. It's okay. You can say that you're good. You know, like there's many people that agree with you. And so, like I remember meeting Jamie Jones once, and I was just like, dude, you're fucking amazing, right? You're like one of the best. And he's like, nah, I'm all right. And I'm like, what? I was like, dude, you're good, man. It's fine. You can just take my compliment. You know, like you're freaking good, man. Like you really are. Objectively speaking, this is not my opinion. You know?
Right.
And I just want to compliment you on that because like I'm so inspired and impressed by your work. There's nothing wrong with me telling you that you're dope and you saying, yes, thank you, I am dope. You know? And so remember this, like there's nothing like the a lot of these things usually are warped around people's opinions rather than reality, right? Like people's like perception of these things versus what's really going on. So if you want people to know who you are, then you have to be popular. And if you want to be popular, then you have to use social media in very clever ways. And it's really simple, actually. It's not very complicated. You got to post a lot of work consistently. It doesn't even have to be good. You can start off with bad work, but as time goes on, it will get better. And you would build the habit of posting work constantly. Right?
Okay.
And that's how you build that audience. That's how you build popularity amongst the industry. You know? Other good strategies, do fan art. Do things that people recognize. But when you do it, also do it in a way that makes it unique and interesting. Like a take on the characters that you like, but in a different context, in a different universe that you also like. There's something wrong with this. Like whenever I see people be highly critical, like in the last class we were talking about this, like of anime, for instance. If someone is critiquing your work and they say you need to get all this anime at your work, and like, I'm not saying that you do, but I'm just saying in general, they're wrong. That's not the right advice or even the right question to ask. The first thing they should ask is, what do you want to do for a living? If you say anime, then they shouldn't be telling you to take all the anime out of your work. If it's anime, then you have to then, if you want to be a good reviewer of someone's work, then you have to give them advice on how to become better at that industry. Because it is a huge industry and there's always needs for artists within that industry.
Right.
There's career paths. If you don't know, then don't give them advice that will derail their passions, right?
Yeah.
And so people do this all the time. I've been seeing these memes about like, you know, like you want to make money from your artwork, do like sexy anime fan art, right? and people like make fun of it, and people are upset by this idea that like to make real money you have to like do anime fan art stuff, right? And I say to that, I generally don't engage in these things because it's a waste of my time, you know.
Right.
But these people are objectively wrong. It's more popular, so it's going to make more money. It's just how it is. You're obscure, like let's look at my own work. Like my obscure fucking lobster-headed red torso wearing robe dude is not a popular aesthetic. Right? It isn't. But I know that it isn't. And I'm not delusional or naive. I do it and I know who my audience is. I find people like many of you guys who appreciate the artistry and the craft.
Yeah.
Right. And the design. You are my audience. And that's why I make a living from teaching, you know?
Right.
Because this is what I do. I mean, when I was professionally doing stuff, I didn't do as much of this stuff, you know? I did stuff that was very popular because that's where the money's at. Like there's a really great passage out of a book that I read a long time ago. I forget exactly, but it's like, if you want to make money, sell to kids, right? Like sell to kids or sell sex, right? Or sell food, like our primal instincts. Sell to these industries and you'll do fine, right? But if you don't care for these industries, then don't be mad that they're popular and your weird, obscure artwork isn't, you know? It just isn't. Okay, and maybe one day it will be. Right now it isn't. And I think that's really smart to be like objective, like just to know where you stand, you know. And instead of like, again, like I was talking earlier, instead of pointing fingers on external purposes of why you're not succeeding, why don't you focus on what makes people in your industry, people in your position succeed? There are examples. Follow their lead, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of trying to get more popular, that's what I did. I just posted work every day or like every other day for years, especially on my Instagram. For years. You can go back to see how my first images where they barely got a few dozen likes, and then went to a few hundred, to then 1,000, to then a few thousand, to now several thousand. And I haven't posted in a long time. So guess what? My Instagram followers has also slowed down. Right?
Right.
It's not rocket science. I know exactly what's slowing it down. It's nothing weird. It's very obvious. I just haven't posted in a long time because I have interests elsewhere. Right? It's like a direct reflection of like how often. If I stream more and post more artwork, I get more sales on my tutorials and more class signups faster. It's just how it works. That's how the machine works. This is why you've probably been seeing a lot of people on YouTube talking about YouTube burnout. It's because to keep that money flow in that industry, you have to have constant content.
Yeah.
It's nothing crazy. Like the kind of content that you have, it doesn't matter. There's people who have really weird and random content and they make a living from it. So like this indie game stuff, like, so I was talking to Corey about like, you know, making this like boss mob game. Like it makes sense that only me, him, maybe one other person can probably work on this project, right? Just like at least 3 people at the most. Like maybe he could do all the character animations and character designs, and then I can get a friend of mine to do the environments, and I can do all the programming. And just keep it tight, and hope to sell upwards of 10,000 copies of the game at like a $10 price point.
Yeah.
Right. And then try to get that, you know, and try to do the game within like a few months time.
Right.
That would be a good launch. And then from there, it would be enough to fuel the next project for another few months. And more importantly, give us some credibility. If we were to sell 100,000, then it would be a commercial success in the scope of our small team.
Right.
But realistically, 10,000 would be a market number that we would want to try to reach. Right? Because I know that kind of game genre is very obscure. There's not too many people who would go for that on the popular spectrum. If I wanted to make money, I'd make a first-person shooter battle royale game. I mean, people make fun of this idea, like, oh, look at all these knockoffs. Well, even the worst of the knockoffs are making fucking bank.
Yeah.
Makes
sense. Yep.
And so if you don't like that, that's your problem. It's not anyone else's. Like you don't like how simple it is, the principle, but that's the point. Like anything that's super popular does really well. It's just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole idea of popularity is that more people have access to that content. Popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have more access to you need to be more popular, right? You have to find ways to market yourself as an educator. There's plenty of educators who don't have like high credentials as industry professionals, by the way, like Proco. Like I don't know what he's worked on, but he's got like one of the largest subscribers on YouTube for artists. So does what's his name? He's an animator.
Aaron Blaze.
I don't know about Aaron, but there's another one. He's like an animator. It's like Australian. Forget.
Jazza?
Yeah, Jazza. He's probably the most popular that I can think of, at least for now. Who's an educator that I don't know his credentials. Like I don't know what he worked on. He worked on a lot of like small indie games and like a lot of Flash animations, but nothing like at a high level commercial. Like for instance, I worked on like the Blizzard cinematics. I worked on World of Warcraft, the movie. I worked on X-Men. I worked on God of War. I have like high credentials, and those credentials go a long way. But I don't nearly have as many followers as these people because they did one thing differently that I did, which was that they posted content constantly.
Right. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to drink some more smoothie as you marinate in this knowledge.
Thank you. I started coding and stuff as well a little bit ago. I've always wanted to make my own games and stuff too. And I think I got into that whole thing of like, oh, if you got to sell a game, all the developers say like, you got to do something little and just like get it out there and continue to make these little ones and then build your way up. And I kind of did that like game jam thing to learn coding. Well, it's kind of coding. I do just the visual scripting in Unreal. I don't actually write anything, but it's all the visual stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all about output.
Yeah, it's the logic at least, I know. But yeah, but my favorite kind of game was never like the platformers or the, things like that. I liked survival games. That's my thing. So, I think the whole, thought process of what you're passionate about is really important. And that's what's going to drive you in the industry, what's going to make you, successful in anything.
Yeah, if you want to make a survival game, just make one.
Yeah.
And if you don't like making it, like you might feel like you like playing them, but you might not like making them, like I learned.
Right.
So, but only one way to find out.
Mm-hmm. Just make it.
Yeah, just make it and you'll know right away.
Yeah.
And like I said, I may have not given puzzle games enough of a shake because I haven't tried like really hard to try to make it. It could be there's a caveat that I always try to remember, which is that it could be because I'm really bad at it. That could be contributing to my distaste for it. Not because I generally don't like to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I always try to remember before I really write something off. A good example is my friend was a cross-country runner in high school. He was the fastest in the class. He got all these scholarships to be a runner. He turned them all down because he hates running. Even though he was like a CIF champion, which is like the best in all of California. He had like the best times.
Oh my word!
In the cross, like the 3-mile run in all of California in high school. He was the fastest senior. But then, all these big schools were like, yeah, come to us. And he was like, nah, I just want to like learn how to speak different languages.
Nice.
And so, yeah.
It's cool. A passion.
Yeah, so to build that audience, to build that popularity, you just got to post often and consistently.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Like, again, if I was to make this project, I would constantly reach out to people and share the progress of the game as it was being developed, if I knew it was being developed competently. Because you slowly build your audience that way. Poop in My Soup and Poop in My Soup 2 was made in a week just for income. Yeah. There's lots of games that just do that. Like, they'd just be like a really simple game and they just make them just so they can make money. Exactly right. It's funny. Poop in My Soup. I wonder what that game's about. I'm sure it's about poop and soup. All right, guys. I'll take one last question. I'm going to send you guys out to the world to be free. All right. Give you guys a couple more seconds to think about it. All right, y'all. Well, someone's going to ask.
I was just gonna ask if you're proud of us.
Hell no. Keep grinding. All right. Next question. Yeah, man, of course. I'm always proud of my students. Everyone did really well. You guys all did pretty great. I mean, there's varying levels of, improvement for each one of you, but that's the point. Like, everyone's different at different stages, mentally, artistically. But you guys all did put really good effort for the most part. What I'm usually pretty proud of is that my classes usually stay pretty consistent. Like, I have tons of people stay within the class towards the end, which is really good. Like, high retention, which is really nice. Will we have access to the lessons on the character site, or just are those locked out after the class? Yeah, those will be locked out, but what you will have access to is just all the video content that we had for today's class. So I would say go and watch them, or maybe like take notes. Again, you have till the end of this week, and then I'll give you guys all the classes that all the video, all the classes that we've had online so far. They've all been recorded, and then you guys will also have access to the other classes. So if you want to watch what they were going through, you feel free. But with that, it has been an honor. Stay friendly, be kind, work your asses off, and I'll see you guys in a different life. Latest, friends. Peace out.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.